Glasgow, Stormers. Stormers tried to storm into Glasgow, fell flat on their face by 16 plus points, right? Holy curmudgeon. This game started off pretty damn cool. I thought it was basically just going to be a tennis match of who could put the other one team into the other's half and then take advantage of it. It started off with the Stormers doing that with a long kickoff, could turn the ball over, 3 points, I believe. Glasgow come right back. They do the same thing with an unbelievably good line-out move, which, you know, I don't know if there's a rule in the rule book. I feel like there is that you can't, like, dummy a line-out, but I guess you're not. The only thing they were dummying is the guy they were lifting up in the air. They send Scott Cummings up, and what they do is just throw it short so that all of the line-out defence from the Stormers gets sucked into the lifter. And what they do is they all get sucked in, and then that just leaves a space right through the middle for the gap to go through the 5 metres. Misdirection to get over the line rather than just trying to bludgeon their way over. But later on, they also bludgeoned their way over with a maul from the line out as well. And then after that kind of backwards and forwards, I was in the game. You know, I was like, you know, Friday afternoon, pretty tired after a week of work, but this has got me. This has got me by the perineal gland. Hope that's not sexual. It's got me by something. And then we go down the other side of the pitch to what I would have thought would be the same thing again, where the Stormers, they kick it deep, they end up pinning Glasgow deep, they get the turnover, and then Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu goes for a drop kick, which doesn't quite make it. And he learns very quickly, well, he doesn't learn very quickly because he does it again throughout the game, which we'll get into. But I feel like the Stormers learned very quickly then there can't be any errant kicks against this Glasgow side. Handling Glasgow is like trying to handle dynamite that is even more explosive than that. Probably like a nuclear bomb. It's kind of like trying to handle a nuclear bomb that has the sensitivity of an 18-year-old virgin. This thing that the Glasgow have, and I don't know how Scotland don't have this because there's a lot of players, obviously. There's a lot of, like, interlinked with the amount of players in it. But there's something about Glasgow that it's like you just can't give them the ball when there's broken play. Yes, the Stormers' defence wasn't great throughout the game, but God, you know, as soon as there was an errant kick, the first one being that drop goal from Sasha, it's just like Glasgow just pressed the on button, you know, like a maelstrom of blue shirts and handoffs and speedy boys come racing all over the place. And they are the ultimate counter-attacking team, you know. They're like Bordeaux, but without the super big giant pack, right? But they're somehow like quicker than Bordeaux in the counter. It's crazy. It's fast, it's aggressive. And I think maybe it's faster, maybe because their forward pack moves faster. They can get to support lines. Like if someone gets tackled, it's not the end of the world. They can clear out quickly and get the ball out quick again. Just superb. And I think that was the real difference between these two teams. That and also execution within the 22. Execution in the 22 is a big thing. I talked about myself in this lonely room by myself. I talked about that line-out move. Great execution, misdirection, goes over the try line. The next try that Glasgow had was off a driving maul where Venter just sees a space on the outside where the guard wasn't available or whatever, and he gets the try. Great examples of great execution for both of those tries for Glasgow. Stormers, when they went behind, and even before that, you know, just fumbled the bag constantly within the 22. Like knock-ons. There was this knock-on that was a sitter from a line-out. Like Hooker picks it up, sees the space with 2 meters to go. All of a sudden realizes he's made like a butter sandwich earlier and, you know, he just like drops the ball out of his hands. Not the only knock-on. Plenty of other knock-ons. Kicks go awry. Just not good. I think they had a couple of key injuries that really played into that, as well as obviously Williamson's suspension. They had their captain in their second row, who's a very good player. I can't remember his name, but he went off very early with the HIA. And I also think that they brought on Manny Lebok pretty quickly as well because of Dupree. I feel like I'm saying Dupree because that's just no, it's Duplessis. I'll say that because it's just a South African name, I know. But Duplessis goes off pretty quickly as well. And I can't help but think that maybe that just kind of interrupted their attack plan. Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu moves to 12. Manny Lebok moves in at 10. 10 is obviously a position that Manny Lebok's very good at. I'm not convinced Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu is a great 12. Too often I felt he was trying to... he was caught in two minds of whether he was going to crash the ball forwards, which I don't think he's that effective as, or if he was going to loop it outside. I actually think if you're going to move Sasha anywhere in that back line, I actually think he's probably a lot more suited for an outside centre rather than an inside centre. I feel like he has great speed when he kind of takes curving lines. The defensive side of it, obviously, that would be a bit more of an education than playing 12. But I definitely think that in terms of attack, Sasha would be much better in that 13 shirt. Also being good at kicking. Really useful for when you get the ball shipped out that wide. There's nothing on, kick it into the corner for a grubber. I just think he's more suited for a 13 shirt if he's going to move into the centres. And I think he is more than capable of moving into that 13 shirt. But he is better at 10, so let's not rush him there. Just, if we're going to move him into the centres, I think 13's better. Everything just looked clunky when he moved to 12 and Libert was at 10. Someone who was not clunky for the Stormers, and I don't really know who this guy is because I don't watch a lot of South African club level rugby. I will really watch the Springboks regularly. Sebelo Sen Atla, right? This guy was sensational. I would hesitate to say that he might have actually been the best player on the pitch. So good. 2 tries, intense work rate as well in defence, always rucking over, trying to clear out, going up for high balls as well. Did a last minute ditch tackle on Tom Jordan, who we'll get into after this, when he was his last man, but tackled him to rip the ball off of him as well and almost start a counter attack. Hell of a player. Done some research on him. He's 32 years old, so he's not exactly going to be breaking into the Springbok team anytime soon. But I did do some research, and it turns out he's a sevens player and has won a gold in the Commonwealth Games and has won a bronze in the Olympic Games in 2016 at sevens. Explains why he has that high work rate. Sevens player, right? When you're a sevens player, you have to be a jack of all trades. So you're kind of forced to do a lot of the things that wingers wouldn't typically do, aka tackling, rucking, and all this stuff that I saw in terms of his work rate, which was very high. Also, another thing that helps with being a sevens player is your your fitness levels. Generally much higher, so therefore you can get around the park and do a lot more. Standout performance by him. Thought he was excellent. Unfortunately on the losing team. Touching on that, moving on to Tom Jordan. Boy, when did Tom Jordan get quick? Okay. Maybe it's because my first real experience of watching Tom Jordan was playing for Scotland. International level rugby is quicker. And I watch him and sure, sometimes I'm kind of quick, but boy, 2 or 3 breaks today on great angles where he looked like the quickest player on the pitch. I think he played great at 10. I think he's probably got a bright future for himself there for Scotland, unless he's kind of old, but I don't think he is. I'm just checking his age now. 26 years old. Okay. So, realistically, Finn Russell's 32, could be the replacement at 10 for Scotland in the future. But regardless of that, what a performance today. A real impetus in the attack for Glasgow. Great on the counter. Is such a threat running with the ball. A lot like Paolo Garbisi is for Italy and for Toulon. That he's such a threat with the ball and he's so quick that he opens up space for the outside as well, just because he has to be taken seriously as a running threat. Also physical. Saw him made a few tackles today. And as I said, hella quick today. Don't know if he's been eating his spinach today that makes him quicker than he usually is, but hell of a performance by him. Tuipulotu, great to see him back. I thought he had like a 7 or an 8 out of 10 game. Not too superstar-y, but great to see him back for his first home game, back in a Glasgow shirt. Backline, I think, played very well indeed. Stafford McDowall, I think, filled in well for Hugh Jones. Pack. Okay, let's talk about packs. If the Stormers were just a little bit more clinical in attack and finishing off attacks, I think this would have been a much closer game because they had complete dominance in the scrum. I think I underestimated in my head the significance of Zander Fagerson and his importance to this squad. I think Murphy Walker really struggled in that tight head shirt. And I know Murphy Walker went off early for somebody else, but that person also struggled, I felt. The Stormers, I've said this in the past in videos. Actually, particularly, I think the most notable one was World Cup semi-final, South Africa versus England. You can go back and watch it if you need evidence, but talking about this, the dominance in the scrum and how it just turns into a free penalty whenever someone just knocks the ball on. I think the Stormers had the ability to use that to their advantage today, and to not use that to their advantage, I think it was incredibly wasteful. Such an advantage, I think, that they had against Glasgow today. The only times it didn't really work out for them was because of the Stormers' ill discipline, aka early engagement at the scrum. They've only got themselves to blame. Trying to get an early shove on as well. Once they were engaged, I think they got penalised for that as well. All in all, just poor discipline by the Stormers pack not to take advantage over what was evidently an incredibly dominant scrum. And not only that, but the referee saw it that way as well. So I think that was wasteful. And I'm a bit concerned for Glasgow going into the next round with regards to how their scrum performs, no matter who they play against, because once you get into semi-final rounds, you start to feel like you're playing in the real business. Not that the Stormers aren't the real business in terms of the quality of the team, but I think it's fair to say they did not play well today, other than a few notable exceptions of what I've just been talking about. I think that was it. It was an entertaining game for someone who doesn't watch the URC that much. I enjoyed it. I won't be able to watch the others. I'll have to be watching highlights or re-recordings on Sunday, as I'm going to be watching Leicester versus Newcastle. But yeah, it was a well-deserved performance. And another thing that's really good for Glasgow is that watching them in the Champions Cup and keeping an eye on their scores and the highlights. As I said, I don't watch the URC as regularly as other leagues. This feels like a bit of a bounce back for form. I felt like Glasgow have not been at their best for a while, kind of grinding out wins here and there. And this was back to like, wow, Glasgow, they can run it from within their own minus 10 metre line all the way up to the other try line. You can't give them any kind of loose ball. They'll take advantage of it. They looked at their best. And it was great to see because they're an enjoyable team to watch. And as a neutral, always good to see enjoyable teams that you watch advance further into a tournament. We're in playoff season, baby. And it was a great way to kick it off, to start off with. And I think that's it. I think I'm done talking now.